Welcome to this day in his story, created by American Heritage Worldwide, a reminder that every day holds something new to learn. Did you know that the bald eagle was chosen as the Great Seal of the United States to represent the strength, independence, and freedom of a new nation? Learn how the meaning of the olive branch with 13 leaves and 13 olives symbolizes peace, and how the 13 arrows in the eagle's left talon represents readiness to defend the nation and honor the 13 original colonies. Discover that above the eagle's head is a constellation of 13 stars that show the colonies united to form one nation. Discover how the bald eagle became one of the most recognizable symbols of the United States and appears on government seals, coins, official documents, and military emblems.
I want you to do something right now. Just imagine reaching into your pocket and you pull out a quarter or a $50, if you happen to be carrying one around for some reason.
Right, which is pretty rare these days.
Yeah, exactly. But just picture the back of that coin stamped right there into the metal is this incredibly fierce apex predator.
The bald eagle.
Right. We carry this symbol of just absolute power around in our pockets, jangling it alongside our keys, usually without ever stopping to, understand its true story.
It's so true. It really just becomes invisible through sheer repetition. I mean, you see it on currency, on government buildings, on passports.
Everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. It is so woven into the visual background of daily life that we stop actually looking at it, let alone questioning, how it even got there in the first place.
Which is exactly the blind spot we are fixing today in this deep dive. And it's perfectly timed, actually, for National American Eagle Day on June 20th.
Oh, that's right. Good timing.
Yeah. So we are stripping away the bronze and the ink to really look at the bald eagle. And the mission here, our goal, is to figure out how this specific bird became the ultimate American icon of both unparalleled strength and, paradoxically, peace.
And the path to understanding that is surprisingly complex. We have a great stack of sources for this deep dive, including historical documents from the nation's founding, hard biological wildlife records, some cultural history, and this really fascinating documentary short on American birds of prey.
Yeah, that documentary was amazing. And I want to just point out, everything we're discussing from these sources today, we are treating as absolute truth. The records are incredibly clear on this stuff.
Absolutely. The historical records combined with that hard biological data of how these predators actually operate in the wild, well, they paint a picture that is very different from the standard mythology we are all taught in school.
Right. Let's start with that mythology because looking through the historical documents, I kept visualizing this through a modern lens.
How?
Well, think about the founding fathers trying to choose a national emblem. It is essentially like, the founders of a modern tech startup sitting in a room agonizing over a company logo.
Oh, that is a very apt comparison. Assuming, of course, that the startup is attempting to overthrow the global corporate structure.
Yeah, exactly. The stakes were a little higher than a Silicon Valley app launch.
Just a little.
If a brand new, entirely unprecedented nation, and the stakes for getting the branding right were just monumental. I mean, they weren't just trying to sell a product. They were trying to signal to the entire globe, specifically to those deeply entrenched empires of Europe, exactly who they were and really what they stood for.
They were basically designing a visual constitution.
Yeah, a visual constitution. I like that.
Yeah, and that explains why they treated the process with such intense gravity. Practically the minute they finished the Declaration of Independence, and we are talking just after it was signed on July 4, 1776, the Continental Congress immediately formed a committee for the national seal.
Like the very same day.
Practically, yeah. They assigned Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and John Adams to the task.
Okay, but here's what I just don't understand about that. You have three of the most brilliant minds of the 18th century, right? Guys who just conceptually engineered a completely new form of government.
Right.
And they couldn't figure out a logo. I mean, it took them 6 years.
It really did.
6 years to finalize the design. Congress actually had to appoint two completely separate additional committees to hash this out before the bald eagle was officially named the national emblem in 1782. Why the massive delay?
Well, it's because they were acutely aware of the permanence of what they were doing. You have to remember, in the 18th century, heraldry, the visual language of seals and crests. That was how nations communicated their fundamental truths.
Oh, so it wasn't just decorative.
No, not at all. Every single element, every angle, every item depicted carried a highly specific, universally understood meaning on the world stage. They rejected design after design because the nuance just wasn't quite right.
They were perfectionists.
Exactly. They needed a symbol that communicated strength without pure aggression and, independence without isolation. It's a very fine line to walk visually.
Which brings us to the final design of the Great Seal. The one we ultimately got after that agonizing 6-year process.
The one we all know.
Right. You have the bald eagle. And in its right talon, it is holding an olive branch.
Yes.
And in its left talon, it is holding 13 arrows, representing, of course, the 13 original colonies.
Yeah.
But, okay, going back to your point about the visual language of heraldry and how specific it is.
Yeah.
The exact placement of those items has to be deliberate, right?
Yeah.
Why put the olive branch in the right talon and the arrows in the left? Why not the other way around?
Oh, it is entirely deliberate. And it all comes down to the concept of dominance.
Dominance, yeah.
Historically, in heraldic tradition, the dexter side, as they call it, is the position of primacy. It's the dominant hand. So by placing the olive branch in the right talon, the founders established an absolute non-negotiable truth about the new nation's foundational values.
Which is what?
That the primary commitment is to peace.
Peace comes first.
Exactly. Peace is the dominant trait. However, keeping the 13 arrows in the left talon ensures that the primary message of peace is backed by an undeniable, ever-present readiness for war.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the nation leads with the olive branch, but it does not drop the arrows to do so.
It is basically saying, we really want peace, but absolutely do not test us.
That is exactly it. And John F. Kennedy actually summarized the ultimate success of this whole 6-year design process beautifully.
What did he say?
He noted that the Founding Fathers made an appropriate choice. He said, and I'm quoting here, "The fierce beauty and proud independence of this great bird aptly symbolizes the strength and freedom of America."
Fierce beauty and proud independence. I hear a quote like that, and I immediately wonder if the actual living animal lives up to the political PR.
That's a fair question.
I mean, it is very easy for a committee of politicians to, draw a bird and assign it all these noble mythical qualities. But if we put the Great Seal aside for a second and look at the physical reality of the eagle.
With biology.
Right, the biology. Did the founders pick a creature whose biology actually matches the hype?
It is a totally valid skepticism because, often a national symbol is heavily romanticized.
Yeah, exactly.
But the biological reality of the bald eagle is this rare case where the physical mechanics of the animal actually exceed the myth. When you look at the wildlife data from our sources, you are looking at nature's perfect hunting machine.
The anatomy alone is just intimidating. I was reading that they have this incredibly sharp sense of sight, much more advanced than a human's.
Oh, significantly more advanced.
Which they obviously need to spot prey from massive altitudes.
Yeah.
And they are packed with powerful muscles, they have razor-sharp beaks, and of course those piercing talons.
And those physical traits, they facilitate a highly specific, very dramatic method of survival. I mean, they are primarily fish eaters. But they don't hunt by wading in the shallows like a heron or something.
No, they don't.
They survive by utilizing that superior vision to spot a fish from the sky, executing a high-speed swoop, and using those talons to snatch their prey directly out of the water while still in flight.
Just ripping their dinner right out of a lake at high speeds. That is incredible. But that also requires a very specific environment, right? They can't just live anywhere.
No, they can't. They need proximity to open, large bodies of water. You'll find them across Canada, Alaska, and the U.S., basically anywhere that ensures an abundant food supply of fish.
But they also need old-growth trees. And this is the part that fascinated me the most in the biological records. The reason they need those massive ancient trees.
You are referring to the architecture of the nests.
I absolutely am. Because learning about this completely broke my mental model of what a bird's nest even is. Well, normally you think of a bird's nest as a cute little woven bowl of twigs that might blow out your gutter in a stiff breeze. But the bald eagle's nest is the largest of any North American bird. And the scale of these structures is almost incomprehensible.
It really is hard to picture until you see the data.
Let's talk about the largest recorded bald eagle nest ever found. The one located in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Oh, that nest is legendary in wildlife records. The dimensions of that specific nest really illustrate the engineering capability of the species.
Yeah, give us numbers.
So it measured 9.5 feet in diameter, it was 20 feet deep, and it weighed nearly 3 tons.
3 tons.
Yes, almost 6,000 pounds.
I want you listening to this to really visualize that. You are taking a walk in the woods, you look up into the upper canopy of an old-growth oak tree, and there is essentially a mid-sized SUV parked up there.
Suspended in the branches.
Yeah, built entirely out of sticks is mind-blowing.
And understanding how a bird physically constructs a 3-ton structure up in a tree is crucial to understanding the bird itself. They do not build it in a single season.
Right, that would be impossible.
This is generational home building. They start with a basic foundation of large sticks, and every single year they return to the exact same nest and add to it.
They just keep renovating.
Exactly. They weave in new branches, grass, and moss, continuously reinforcing the structural integrity. So over decades, the nest grows wider and significantly deeper, eventually reaching those massive multi-ton proportions.
But, this is where the biological reality actually ruins the lone warrior myth for me.
Interesting. Why do you say that?
Well, when you look at how they live, it doesn't sound like a fierce, solitary apex predator. It sounds like a very dedicated suburban couple.
That's a funny way to look at it.
I mean, they live for 20 to 30 years in the wild, and they mate for life. They spend decades meticulously adding additions to their giant house. And physically, the documentary short pointed out that female eagles are significantly larger than the males.
Yes, that's a common trait in birds of prey.
Right. A fully grown female boasts an average wingspan of 7 feet and weighs between 7 and 15 pounds. The males are smaller. So, does this reality fundamentally contradict the hypermasculine, solitary warbird stereotype we usually associate with birds of prey?
It shatters the superficial stereotype, yeah, absolutely. But if we dig a little deeper, it actually perfects the metaphor the founders were going for.
How so?
Think back to Kennedy's phrase. He said, proud independence and strength. Well, true strength isn't just chaotic destruction or solitary roaming. The eagle represents a deeply rooted, purposeful strength.
Because they have a foundation, a home.
Precisely. You have an animal with immense physical dominance and lethal hunting prowess, sure, but it uses that power to establish a lifelong partnership and construct a multi-ton generational legacy.
Wow, yeah.
It is the fierce beauty of protecting what you have spent a lifetime building. That is a much more profound representation of national strength than just a simple, aggressive warbird.
Okay, framing it as the power to protect a legacy makes perfect sense. But honestly, that makes the next chapter of this story incredibly dark.
It does take a grim turn.
Yeah. We have established this creature as a physical powerhouse, a master builder, and a cultural icon so revered that we made it the literal face of the nation. So how does a creature with all those advantages almost disappear entirely?
It reveals a terrifying disconnect, a disconnect between the symbols a society claims to revere and the actual real-world consequences of that society's actions.
Because the numbers from the 1960s, they are grim. By 1963, the bald eagle population in the wild had completely collapsed.
Almost entirely gone.
Across the entire country, we were down to a mere 417 nesting pairs.
417 pairs holding the entire species together. It's staggering.
It is the glaring, almost absurd paradox. Humans simultaneously revered this creature enough to stamp it on every piece of currency, put it on every official government document, and, pledge allegiance in front of its image.
Right.
While simultaneously, in the physical world, driving its population down to 417 pairs, we were literally minting coins with their face on it while bankrupting their actual existence.
Which is exactly why National American Eagle Day was established.
It's not just a celebration.
No, it isn't just a holiday to look at a majestic bird. It forces a society to look in the mirror. A national emblem demands something of the people who adopt it.
That's a powerful way to put it.
You cannot legitimately call yourself a nation of strength, freedom, and preservation while allowing the very biological embodiment of those traits to die out on your watch, largely due to your own expansion and negligence.
You have to align your reality with your branding.
Exactly. And that alignment is the mechanism that drove one of the most triumphant conservation recoveries in history. The awareness raised by initiatives like National American Eagle Day led to dedicated systemic protection efforts.
We finally stepped up.
We did. We protected their habitats, secured those old-growth trees they desperately need for their massive nests, and actively managed their recovery.
And the turnaround is just staggering. In June of 2007, the bald eagle was officially withdrawn from the list of endangered and threatened wildlife in the contiguous 48 states.
A huge milestone.
Incredible. From a low of 417 pairs in 1963, the population has rebounded to more than 71,400 nesting pairs.
With an estimated 316,700 individual birds living in the lower 48 today.
It is a massive biological victory, and a societal one, really. But as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's important to take this grand, epic scale of national history and wildlife conservation and bring it down to the micro level.
I agree.
Because the symbolism of the eagle, it has a direct psychological application for you listening right now.
The most enduring symbols always operate on both a national and an individual level. They have to, or they lose their meaning.
Right. And to apply it individually, we have to look closely at what the eagle is holding in its dominant talon, the olive branch.
The symbol of peace.
Exactly. And the concept of the olive branch as a symbol of peace wasn't invented by Benjamin Franklin or Thomas Jefferson. It has very ancient roots.
Oh, it predates the Great Seal by millennia.
The cultural history traces the olive branch directly back to the Old Testament, specifically the book of Genesis, chapter 8, verse 11, during the story of Noah and the great flood.
A very famous story.
Right. The text reads, "And a dove came in to him in the evening, and lo, in her mouth was an olive leaf plucked off. So Noah knew that the waters were abated from off the earth."
It is the ultimate signal that the chaotic, destructive storm is over. The flood waters have receded. The environment is finally safe enough to begin building again.
Safe to build. Which circles right back to those eagles constructing their massive 3-ton nests. You need a stable environment to build a legacy.
But creating that stability is an active, intentional choice. It doesn't just happen.
And that brings us to the psychological challenge we want to leave you with today. Think about the Great Seal. The founders literally engineered this image to say, we are capable of war, but we prioritize peace.
The hierarchy of the talons.
Yes. The eagle physically holds the weapons, the arrows, in its left talon, but it leads with the olive branch in its historically dominant right talon.
It makes a conscious structural decision about which tool to use first.
Exactly. So on a personal level, consider your own daily conflicts, whether it is friction with an estranged family member, a tense dynamic at work, or just an argument with a friend.
Everyday battles.
Right. In those moments of conflict, do you actually default to your right talon? Do you lead by offering an olive branch, signaling that the floodwaters can recede and it's time to build?
Or do you default to the left?
Right. Or when challenged, are you too quick to reach for the arrows in your left hand? It is something to seriously think about the next time you hear the jingle of change in your pocket.
Thank you for joining us for this day in His story. May the lessons of yesterday inspire you to see God's hand today and to play your part in His story now. For more faith-based learning, visit ahsworldwide.org, the homeschool for faith and family.